public service announcement. If you are the person who wants everything to tie up in a nice, neat little bow by the end of the video, this is not the video for you. Skip to a different one. I'll put a link up in the corner at the top of the screen, and I'll find you something that ends really nicely. This is not that. This is very messy. I don't know. I went more is more, and it was too much. So come along for the ride. Enjoy watching me make a mess that you do not have to clean up. I will clean it up, or I won't, and life will go on. But I wanted to show this to you in case it's helpful, if nothing else for solidarity, because the middle is just messy. It has to get worse before it gets better. Otherwise, you just keep your blank panel or your blank canvas. That's perfection of white. So then we have to do something to make it a little less great. And then hopefully it ends up to the top again. These are not resolved, but I will show you what I did and what I was trying to do with masking fluid. And there were some successes and some wins and a whole lot of changing directions. So without further ado, here we go. You might remember that when I made my Big Mama painting that's still between titles, I also made 6 other panels using the same color palette. This is the story of those 6 panels. I left them on my wall for quite some time and decided it was time to pursue them. I'm taking masking fluid and applying it to this current situation. Lots of colors, lots of action going on. Masking fluid is typically used for watercolor painting so that you can paint it on, use watercolors, and then peel it off. And anywhere that the masking fluid was will just be plain paper. No watercolor paints will have seeped underneath it. So acrylic is not the main medium to use it with, but I had some success in the past and wanted to capitalize on some of these really fun color combinations that I had here by using the masking fluid. Wasn't sure what I was going to do on top, but I knew I wanted to preserve some of the fun colors happening here. One thing to note with masking fluid, if you're going to use a paintbrush, don't use your favorite paintbrush. Use, the one that you keep forgetting to wash, that's all bent out of shape, and make sure that you rinse it quickly. People have said that your brush is just destroyed, but I have not found that to be the case. As long as you get it in water right away, you can still wash it off. I wanted to make sure that some of that fluorescent red showed through to the next layer. And I didn't have a ton of expectations for this. I just wanted to capture some of the excitement of those initial layers. I really liked the energy coming from these paintings and these 6 panels. There was so much happening, so I wanted to calm it down, but I didn't want to lose the first marks, those really free, energetic, improvisational marks. One thing to note with masking fluid and acrylic paint, if you use thick paint on top of the masking fluid, you will not be able to peel off the masking fluid. Or if you can, I don't know how to do that yet. So now comes the moment of truth. Well, one of the moments of truth while I am covering this up. I know this brings some of us anxiety. Shout out to Paul, my friend who does not love it when I do this. triggers some sort of anxiety response. Don't worry, Paul, it gets much worse from here because these are insane. I did have some regrets getting to that point, thinking, oh boy, I'm covering up an awful lot. But I went on. I had made a cool purple on the Big Mama painting that I never really got to these panels. I was trying to replicate that. I believe I used phthalo turquoise and the fluorescent red to make it. The great part is I love the color. It's this very grayish purple. The downside of this color is it's very transparent. So unless you put it on pretty thick, it's just, I don't know. I didn't love the look it was giving me because I could see every brush stroke in it. And because I was trying to go around these dots, whatever. This is where I started to have some problems. This is where the wheels are starting to fall off here. I was enjoying the stillness that the purple brought. It's grounding. However, I was really covering up a lot and had no end goal. I wanted to try to get the paint to stay thin, which is why I keep putting papers down and lifting that paint, which of course then just kept the purple being more and more transparent and showing more brush strokes. I don't know still if this was a fool's errand at this point. There's a lot I like about it. I really do like the purple with the black and white, dots, for lack of a better word. And I chose to use this paper as a paper mask to get these straight lines because everything else was so rugged. That's not the word I'm looking for, but the edges were not crisp. I wanted some crisp edges, if for no other reason, to add to the overall composition some differences. Okay, this is where I'm trying to get the masking fluid off. You have to wait till the paint is completely dry. And it's hard to remember where the masking fluid went. It's very hard to distinguish it from other brush strokes. And it's also tricky because you can see where I keep working on that one part in the middle of the top. I knew that there was masking fluid there because of the stripes, and it was just stuck. I had put too much paint on top and it was going to stay. Now this bottom chunk, I took that big chunk and colored masking fluid on top of that whole, squarish shape at the bottom. That was great. That was a great success. I think the secret of doing this is making sure your masking fluid is thick enough that it will give you some grip through the layers of acrylic paint. I'm using a rubber cement eraser, which is a very small square in this situation. The ones I got were much smaller than I had intended to purchase. There are bigger ones too that are easier on your hands because this hurt my hands a ton. If you have arthritis, I do not recommend doing this with these small ones. But I could feel in some cases where the masking fluid was just using the eraser across the whole painting. So that part was very helpful. Wherever I could lift up paint with this rubber cement eraser, I would lift it up. If you go back and watch this again, you'll notice in the beginning I had lots of polka dots, maybe dime-sized circles that I made with the masking fluid, and almost none of those circles came through. I don't know why. Still not sure what was going on there, but they got lost. And that's after me intentionally looking for them. So quite interesting. I decided that I would add some paint here to break up some of the purple. and I wanted to add more cool, calm, quiet. So I went for my Celadon, which you guys know I love, and I'm just scraping into the paint here with a small color shaper. But because the purple was so dark, it was not a choice that I was thrilled with at the time. In my head here, you may relate to this. My head was just like, oh my gosh, there's so much here. There's so much happening. What's going on? But I guess kept going because I wasn't sure where to go. And I knew I didn't want to stop because I didn't like how they were in this moment. So I just kept going. I figured more is more. Let's see what happens. What else can I do? So adding the Celadon was fun. I did enjoy it. I realized after I painted over the other orb shapes that were there initially, I wanted to put them back. So if you're asking right now, do I regret painting these 6 panels? No, I don't. What I regret is, I don't know what I regret, honestly. Because looking at this now, when I look back at the beginning, I'm like, oh, they were so bright and colorful. They were so amazing. They were so happy and punchy and exciting. And looking at them now, they're very different. I would argue that they're still probably pretty exciting. There's still a lot going on. I think I quieted things down too much. If I were to do it over again, I would do it differently. And I think I would make more of a plan with what shape I wanted the end result to be. And then use quiet colors and quiet spaces to make that shape. Instead, I was just adding paint on top of paint on top of paint without a goal in mind. Now, if you followed me for any amount of time, you know that that is my favorite thing to do. So I can talk a big game about what I would have done or could have done or should have done. But the reality is this is what I did. And I'm using a dark wash of phthalo blue and black here because I wanted to fill in, well, to get some more depth with that purple, but also I wanted to try filling it in to see if I could get it to be less transparent. It's hard to see from this vantage point, but you could still see brush strokes in much of the purple spaces. So they were not as quiet as I wanted them to be. So I'm adding more masking fluid here because why not? I wanted to add some glazes, but I wanted the black and white to stay black and white. So my thought was I could add masking fluid to those black and white polka dots and then paint over them with this watered down phthalo blue black mixture. What I quickly realized was that the masking fluid came off with the brush strokes on top. I think because it was so wet and the glaze, it was very watery. I think that it just loosened up the masking fluid. So that was tricky. And anytime I used any paper towel near it, it would just lift it off. So you can see here as I scrub it off, the whites do get whiter. I did preserve some of the brighter colors. And I think because of the wetness from the glaze, I was able to start finding more areas from the initial masking fluid that now would peel up. So that was kind of fun too. Of course, here I had liked this composition in this big purple shape that I had made, and now with this giant bright part of color in the middle, I have some, this is my favorite one, but I have some, I'm not quite sure what to do to going forward. So this is my messy middle. Do not feel like a failure when you get to this point. Every artist goes through this every single time. So keep going. and let me know what you do to get through your messy middle.